leather, lavender, a fresh cigar, the rind of a citrus, mountain air after a rain. These are a few of the smells that Mr. Dustin DeFrates enjoys. In studio today is that man.
Get ready for the real estate show that takes you across the barriers and into the danger zone. That Bitchin' Real Estate Podcast with your host, Tenacious T.
Dustin, introduce yourself.
After that, my name's Dustin DeFrates, and I like cigars and fresh citrus rind.
I was reading through some of these. I think most of us can relate to rain, right?
Yeah.
And especially there is something crisp about a mountain rain.
For sure.
But you don't quite, the city rain is great, but you're right, a mountain rain is beautiful. But I was thinking, do you cook with citrus? Is that why you're using the rind? I wasn't quite sure where the rind
it's kind
came
of a
in.
new. I used to drink, so I drink a lot of fluids. I have a hydro flask over there, and it used to be like a white tea that's made in Arizona, and then I also had like a jasmine tea, and I was just drinking a lot of tea, and I started thinking about staining and going to the dentist.
Yeah.
And so I switched recently to water with rotating ginger and cucumber, and like just things that are infusing the water with
all of those healthy things we should be doing at this time.
That's right. That's right. So the citrus rind, now that I cut those in the morning and I smell that smell, it's just something that's in my mind every day.
Yeah. And being in Arizona, we have plenty of citrus.
Lots of citrus.
Leather, the smell of leather. Boy, I can relate to that. I think we all know I'm a leather girl. Mm-hmm. When did leather first come into play for you? Was it a child? Was it?
It's so the new car smell has that leather, right? And so that's one of it. But then like a fresh shoe, I like Ferragamos, and Ferragamo has a smell to it every single time you open up that box, and you're just like, those.
So it is that new leather smell, the smell of the interior of a car, the new shoes. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed asking you what you do on a daily basis, the 5 things that you do on a daily basis. Yep. And you have a variety of them. But like most people that I've seen over the past, say, year, 2 years, we're starting to get centrally focused on health. Mm-hmm. And I would say children have a big play in that.
Yeah, huge.
When did you start really focusing in on, let's say, mountain biking, swimming, karate? How long have you been doing karate?
Oh, karate is a recent one. My son is 3.5 years old, and we've been in karate for about a year, maybe 6 months or so.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures. He's kind of good.
He's pretty good at karate, yeah. It's unfortunately, we're out of practice. So we didn't keep our training in COVID-19 season, but we're getting good. He's getting good.
I love it.
I'm pretending.
You're doing it with him, man.
Yeah.
You're doing it with him.
That's
I
right.
love that. You are a solutionist. I was reading that you love to solve problems.
I love solving problems. Yeah. Big problems, complicated problems.
Yes. You are a little bit of a, I'm going to call mathematical genius, computer genius.
I wouldn't say any of those things. I like to understand what's coming next significantly before it comes. So I like to see things.
Strategize.
Yeah, strategize, see things in advance before they happen, and be well in advance of when they come. And so I have a few projects that we're working on.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. My brain. I'm slow to communicate, but my brain is fast. Like I'm a speed chess player, and so I can quickly see all of the solutions that exist and eliminate things in a fast action, and I can see that in a long-term period and how things interact.
Right.
And especially in Arizona in the residential real estate market, we've seen the roller coaster. Like most people think there was an up and a down, but there's been all kinds of micro bursts in the market since 2003. And so real estate is a slow game from a financial perspective as opposed to equity trading or currency trading. And so just because it's slow doesn't mean it's not affected by macro events. COVID affects the stock market right now. It's crazily positive for some reason, and then I have a couple of reasons for that. But for some reason, then it's really high. And so real estate has the supply and demand reactions and actions and reactions, and it's Like you talk to Tina Tambor, and she'll be talking about a company that's moving into a very specific area. And you can literally look around that pocket of houses, and the houses are going up in value in those micro areas. And when you're a real estate agent, you don't really see those things. You're kind of working in the business from an analytical perspective, right? As opposed to working on your business and understand what's actually going on around you, you know? And so
a normal agent comes in and they just think, okay, I'm going to start calling people. I just need to get clients. They don't think to strategize, target, use positioning.
That's right. Macro trends.
That had to have been developed as a child, though. When did you get into chess? Like, where does that influence come from? Or was it just something that was naturally there?
Yeah, it was, a lot of it's probably, I was motivated probably by my father first and foremost, you know? And so Alexander Hamilton was this kind of a scrapper.
Yeah.
And so my dad's dad was a preacher and worked for the state of Illinois in Springfield.
Fascinating. And
so my dad had a bug inside of him that he wanted to do something different and better and new and get out of Springfield as round one. And so he kind of put that bug in me to do better every single moment of every single day, because that is how you're going to get out of Springfield, Illinois. You know, that's how you're going to move into, I think it was Salt Lake City was his next one, and then Arizona, and then back to Chicago. And so I grew up in Chicago. And so that like patterning that he created for himself is something that I probably used as a launching platform to do what I wanted to do. And, you know, that would be what I would hope for my son also is sons. I had just had a baby 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yay.
So that's what I think that's probably what I would hope for my sons also, is that you can start with this launching board. You have this much figured out, but if you can transfer that on, then the next person can figure out the next step. And I'm just trying to figure out the next step.
So you got into real estate, or got licensed, I should say, in 2008.
Yes.
You were in real estate before that, though, right? As maybe private investing. What made you suddenly decide, you know what, this is interesting. I want to solve the problem of becoming extremely successful in real estate as an investor or as a broker, as a business owner? What motivated you to do that?
Also, my dad, I'd say. We had a couple rental houses in Chicago, and you know, and then I remember painting the front porches, and my dad telling me why we had these houses and why we were putting the work into painting those front porches. And so I think that I understood the value of an asset because I also watched my dad grow a company. He was an entrepreneur, built a company. And so I understood the nature of that asset to be more valuable than the nature of a transaction.
Yeah.
And so from 2003 to 2000, and I didn't get my license until the summer of 2008.
Yeah.
And so in that period, I was always investor focused on the asset.
Sure.
And when I recognized that the agents that I was flipping houses with were making more money with zero risk on a lot of my flips, I recognized pretty quickly that I'm going to need to take care of this other piece of the business.
Right.
And so I've never been good at the agency side per se,
right.
But it has been a solution to problems, and I've done, of course, many deals, mostly with home sellers. Especially with home sellers looking to exit because of some kind of financial or physical distress with the property.
So your specialty really is being able to identify the areas that are in need of an investor to come in, the areas that will be lucrative to come in and flip or maybe buy and hold. You've recently turned that into a business or an additional asset called GeoPoint
data, yeah.
GeoPoint data.
I actually turned it into 4 different assets, but GeoPoint data is one of them. Yeah.
So is that a brand new baby? Something you've been working on?
We launched publicly. We tried to launch at Inman last year at Inman, and it was a failed launch. We had an ex-partner that crashed my website in the middle of our launch in Vegas. That was a fun experience. Well. Yeah. So we didn't. That was kind of our soft launch. December 10th was our hard launch as GeoPoint data, and we're doing really well.
Yeah, I doing my stalking, which I do when I have a guest coming on. I started watching, and there's a lot of videos that you've done. I shouldn't say a lot. There's a good handful of podcasts and videos I was watching, and it is fascinating. It is a tool that I definitely want more information on, but there's also something called the Call Guru.
Yeah, we
That's
have
yours too?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about that one. That one I'm really interested in.
So it's always a story with a story, right?
Right.
And so in a realtor's business, you would associate a listing contract with what I would associate a purchase contract, right?
Yeah.
So my goal has always been not to drive down my cost per lead, but to drive down my cost per contract, right?
Yeah.
And so GeoPoint data, we can predict to someone moving out of their house in a 6-month period across the United States of America.
Right.
We can say that person with a 90% certainty is going to move out of their house. And then we have all of their cell phone numbers, landlines, and email addresses, and we know if they're Black, white, Hispanic. We know how much money they make. We know a syndicated credit score.
Right.
We know all of these things about a homeowner. But then just knowing that information about a homeowner isn't enough to be able to say, hey, you have a need, and I, as a realtor or a real estate investor, have the capability of helping you solve it. So it's really about not just driving down your cost per contract or cost per listing acquisition. It's about putting your offer in front of the right people at the right time.
At the right time, yeah. And with this program, and it sounds a little scary because people are like, oh, how does he know that? How does he know those patterns? Well, it's algorithms, it's patterns, it's data that's already out there. Data is the most valuable resource we have. It's more valuable than anything, almost more valuable than air right now. Data has been key to a lot of successful businesses growing substantially. And I haven't seen anything like you have. I haven't seen anything like these programs. You said there's 4. So
well, there's 2 that there's maybe 3 that are 4. I don't know how many
2
we'll
that
talk
you can't
about
talk
today.
about, right? We'll talk about those 2.
So the call gurus is the simplest thing to talk about. So once you know that someone is interested in communicating with you, postcards work, Facebook works, door knocking works. I started in 2003 door knocking.
Yes.
So every single methodology of reaching out to a homeowner works, but there are certain realtors, investors that have already established a level of business where they don't need to do as much prospecting themselves.
Yes.
And so the people that, have marketing budgets, the people that have made it to a level that they don't know. I personally door knocked, I personally made calls, but the people that don't do that or have to do that anymore tend to hire people to take care of those things for them.
Yes, I need that. Yes. That's why this is so interesting to me.
So we try to bridge that. We try to say, okay, Kimberly, who's your favorite customer to work with, Kimberly?
I help families that have been through hardships start a new chapter.
Boom. That is that was almost like it was a sales pitch coming, because that's basically the nature of what we do.
That is my thing.
The nature of a hardship is a trigger point, and the real estate disruptors that are trying to take all of the realtors' jobs with some certainty are using those trigger points in behavioral psychology, right? Yeah. If people are online searching for Zillow, that's a behavior, right? They're probably looking to sell their house, or if somebody has a bankruptcy or a divorce, that's a trigger, or a death, that's a trigger. And so we warehouse triggers across the United States, judgments and death and bankruptcy and felonies and misdemeanors and upward trajectory of life and downward trajectory of life. So if your specialty is working with people in hardship, then we would look to say, okay, which hardships, right? A vacant house is a hardship from a financial perspective.
Absolutely.
You have an asset that isn't making you money, or nobody's living under, right? And so that's a hardship. But a divorce or a death or a judgment or a felony or a HOA misdemeanor or a city
job
violation
loss from COVID.
That's right. All those things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. And so we helped people by purchasing their house in the foreclosure site. Basically 1 out of 5 houses we would purchase as a short sale negotiation, right? And so the other 4 were just not in the situation, but 1 was distressed in physical condition. We were able to get a great price, but all of them we would attempt to help them move into a house that was similar in the same area to where they were, so that though they were uprooted in life, they were not uprooted in every single part of life.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Offer some stability while instability exists.
Solutionist. Yeah.
Solutions.
You do a lot of philanthropic work. I remember, I think it was 5 years ago. Must have been 5 years ago. I met you for the first time. I actually came into your brokerage.
Okay, yeah.
And I believe you were talking about multifamily dwellings at that time that you were purchasing, and you probably still have quite a few of those.
I do.
What drives you there? Where did that come from?
The philanthropic side,
Yes.
or so
Both.
if we were talking about multifamily
Yes.
and philanthropic, so we have a friend named Denise Resnick who is with SARC and Scottsdale Area Association of Autism Association Research Center.
My youngest child is autistic, so we went to SARC it's Southwest Association of Autism Resource Center, something like that. Yes, exactly.
Hey Denise, we gotta come up with an easier acronym.
I will get the correct one and float it over the head in the editing. Yes,
that's good. Oh, that's right. Second rounds. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll have all the editing in there. So yes, you have a friend that's heavily affected by special needs.
I have a brother-in-law who has autism, and he's able to communicate, and he's able to hold a conversation without looking at you,
Right.
and if he knows you really well,
Right.
But everything else, he's completely going to stay on one side of
Sure.
a room and try not to interact
Sure.
until he feels that level of comfort. And so that's a special place in our heart, and also my father-in-law. We run family office money.
Yes.
And so we have families, both my family, my wife's family, and then a couple other outside the state families that let me run their money, basically, from a portfolio perspective. And so he's one of those people, and we've been exploring ways to deliver something for Ricky. Ricky's house is what we call it. And so we've been looking for a way for Ricky to have a house that is his own, that he can feel is his own, but still have the support of a outside community member. And if it's the family, perfect. But from my father-in-law's perspective, it's hard to put that. It's not a burden. We welcome that.
Sure.
We welcome that opportunity. But from his perspective, he's going to see it as a burden. He's going to see it as something that says, well, if there's a way that we can avoid putting that on them, they want to do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. And there's just one more thing, right? And so that's kind of the idea, is that all families have that same, what happens when I'm no longer here.
Exactly. And, again, my son, he'll be 13 and this weekend. And even though he does really well, I know he probably won't be completely independent. And I know there's group home situations and group living situations, but you really want to give them that freedom to be able to pursue their passions. They have passions. They're just different than ours. And if anything, they are a source of pure, unconditional love, of light. And I don't have a lot of family members, and I don't know what's going to happen. I can set up the legacy, but you just don't know. So that was something I remember you briefly talking about then. You're continuing with that then, trying to find solutions for that.
Yeah, so we have a charity. We have a charity founded, a 503c, called Special Needs Housing Foundation. And so
say it one more time so we have it really clear for the show.
Special Needs Housing Foundation. And the beginning of the Special Needs Housing Foundation was my wife and I didn't ask for wedding gifts, and our wedding was in Mexico City, and people tend to give a lot in Mexico. And so we wanted to use the Special Needs Housing Foundation as a way to take that money and start something, right?
Yeah.
And so we got to have some fun with it. We threw a couple parties. This is back in the day.
Of course. Why not?
So threw a couple parties in Old Town and did some interesting things and raised some good money.
Yeah.
But in the end, we have both decided, my wife and I, that the charity aspect is not our time, right? We are still builders, and so we're not quite ready for the charity side of the game until we have built what our dreams are ourselves.
And I've even struggled with that. There's this huge pull inside of you that you want to help every second of every day, right? Part of the reason why entrepreneurs drive themselves to the point of exhaustion to build is so that they can give it back.
That's right.
Unless you can really dedicate the majority of your time to it, you're going to lose everything else that you started building.
It's on the dot.
Yeah.
Right there.
So completely understand setting it aside for now until you can solidify these other engines that you're working, because now you've got 2 little boys that need this legacy.
Right.
And tell me about your wife. Tell me about your boys.
Oof, I'm proud of my wife more than anything in the world, and Diego's just becoming an embodiment of all of her good qualities and some of mine. And
that's so cute.
Yeah, it's my wife is an entrepreneur, and she used to financially run her father's company in Mexico City, a hydraulic construction company, so kind of outside of her area of expertise.
So she's really smart too.
She's really smart. Yeah. In fact, before she met me she went to Thunderbird in Arizona for grad school.
Okay, yeah.
And so before, she assumed that she was going there because she wanted to do international finance for someone like Louis Vuitton or someone, an international brand. And so
I do that too. Free shoes.
That was her dream, yeah. And so then she met me, and I got to thank God sidetrack her from that dream. Maybe
Who said I love you first?
I definitely did.
I have seen some pictures. She's quite lovely. Elegant is the word there. And you're right, she's stunning. The children are beautiful too, but that's a combination of the 2 of you.
Thank you.
Your newest family member, what's his name?
Andres.
So tell me the name choices, Diego and Andres. Is that a family history? Why
I don't
the names?
actually say Andres. I always say Andreas.
Okay.
And if you're from Mexico, then or Latin America, Andres is the name, and it's a very strong, manly name.
Yes.
But Andreas is the way that us gringos pronounce it.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
And so both of them are Hispanic names. Diego is 3, almost 4, and Andres is 2 weeks old.
Oh my goodness, how's that going? Any sleep yet?
Yeah. We are blessed to have my wife's Ricky's nanny from Mexico City.
I love it.
Who took care of Ricky when he was growing up, took care of Diego, and her sister is able to help now with Andres, and
that.
so we have a very, very, very. We're getting sleep, which is a requirement from both her perspective and my perspective, because we're entrepreneurs. She just launched a company less than a year and a half ago called Love Mashka. She has a protein shake for expecting and lactating mothers. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Say that, can we promote that one more time? Say that again.
Love Mashka, MAJKA.com. And so that she had, when she went through the pregnancy with Diego, she experienced things like losing her hair and
yes.
a lot of.
I'm still experiencing that, and it's been 13 years. No, anyway.
Yeah, right, the kids. Yeah. Totally. But the nutrition part, she found out she had an autoimmune disease, and she's basically been able to correct that almost 100%. And in that process of solving her own problems with her own body, she said, wow, my body just completely got destroyed when we had Diego. And not only did we just have the most amazing pregnancy anyone could ever have or expect to have, and a beautiful baby that allows us to sleep at night, but she's healthier than she's ever been in her entire life.
I love that.
And so her life progression for the past 2.5, 3 years was building a branding company for women. She was an educator going around the United States teaching women how to build their businesses from home.
Love that.
And then she pivoted that into the protein shake, the lactate for lactating mothers.
Which really is very needed. I can say that I wish I would have had that for sure. Having 4 boys,
Oh my
and
goodness
the last one
gracious,
being twins, it takes a lot out of you, and that's a beautiful thing. I can't wait to do some more stalking on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so your goals for 2020 were interesting. Just so you know out there, I asked for 5 words on each of these topics so that I have an idea of where you're thinking and where you're going. Off the record, I think we probably talked a little bit about some of those off the record. Value add, lead gen, and Puppet Master. I want to know more about Puppet Master, please.